You guys have to understand that the difference between where you at and where you want to be is just time. That's really what it is. The difference where you are at right now and where you want to be in the future is just time. For those of you that don't know, I started my own home healthcare agency. It's been about a year now. It was a year on October 4th, and this has been one of the most challenging things that I've ever done in my life. I would just say entrepreneurship, starting a business, doing your own thing and trying to make, income on your own, whether it's through, content creation. I feel like that's a business too because it's a personal brand. Whether you have your own physical business, you own a shop or whatever you may do, that has to be on you, where you have to make the money, you have to generate income on your own. I'll call that entrepreneurship. When you don't have a boss and you have to generate income on your own, I call that entrepreneurship or whatever. So and the road through entrepreneurship is hard. Like it's not easy. I've had a lot of ups and downs. And a lot of the times I like to come on my this YouTube channel and just kind of talk about like my experiences, just to kind of see, there may be other people who are going through what I'm going through. And this is more so like a therapy session with myself and with those of you that, watch my videos. And so the one of the biggest things I want to harp on and like really look at in this video is just wherever you want to be at in life, like you can get there. The only thing that's stopping you is, time. As long as you are putting in a consistent amount of work every single day and you're doing things the right way, you are eventually going to get there. If you guys don't know, I'm like one of the most impatient people. Like I'm so impatient, and I want things to happen like right away. And I think part of that, why many people in our generation, I'm 29, is because we grew up with technology, bro. Everything you could possibly want, you could just go on your phone and you could get it right away. If I wanted to order food right now and have it come to my house, it'll come in less than like 15-20 minutes. If I wanted to order something and I wanted to get something from Amazon and I order it, I get it the next day with Amazon Prime. Like we are, we grew up with instant gratification. Like whatever you could possibly want, you could have it delivered to your door without even leaving your house, which is a great thing, which is great. And I'm happy to have these things. But, as an individual, when you have that, it makes you think everything else in life is supposed to be that way. And it's not. It's not, especially when you are trying to become something. For me, for example, I want to be the first millionaire in my family, and I want to build, my home care agency to become a multi-million dollar agency. And I want to get into real estate, and I want to build a real estate empire that, generates multi-million dollars. And those are like my goals. And when people ask me, what do you want to do? I tell them that I want to be the first millionaire in my family. I want to have multiple companies that generate millions of dollars. And that seems crazy to think about. But how is that crazy? There's thousands of people on this earth that not only make millions, but make billions. There are people on this earth who make billions of dollars every year. So for me to say I want to become a millionaire, I don't think that's impossible. I feel like anybody can do it. But the road to get to that $1 million is going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of hard work. And it's going to take a lot of dedication. Through my journey as an entrepreneur, there are so many times where I'm just like, I don't want to do this anymore, bro. Like, I don't want to keep going. Like, this is getting so hard. I'm having some months are great, some months are terrible, and sometimes I'm spending so much money and I'm seeing little results. When you first are building a company, you're building a brand, you're building a business, for the first 3 years, you're spending so much money and you're building so much, but you're not seeing anything in return. You're not seeing a lot in return, and so you're giving up a lot of your time, a lot of your energy, and putting it into something that you're not going to see a return in within like the next 5 to 10 years. That's why most businesses die after 3 years. Most businesses or brands or whatever, somebody starts where they have to generate their own income and they're not relying on an employee or a company. It usually dies within 3 years because people are not disciplined enough. And so the one thing I would try to help you guys, or one thing that I try to do, is don't think about your business in like, okay, I want to do this. I want to get to this point within the next year or 2 years. You need to think in like decades. Honestly, you need to think in decades. My goal for my business, I don't want to do this business for the next 2-3 years and sell it. No, I want to be able to build this business for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. That's how multi-billion-dollar businesses are built. If you look at Apple and its success, they had the same owner, Steve Jobs. He was under Apple for like decades. And multiple people have approached him and asked him to buy Apple, but he stood under Apple and he built it for decades, just Apple. The same thing for Microsoft and Bill Gates. He built that company for decades. For decades, he built that company. The same with Amazon. Go back to Jeff Bezos' story. You guys can watch all these stories, read all the books like I do, and watch these videos. But when you look at these businesses, they've been under one management, and these people have been doing this one business for decades. And that's why now these businesses are worth billions and billions of dollars. And so the one advice that I would try to give to yourself, and I give to myself too, because it's a struggle with this entrepreneurship thing, building a business, building a brand, this thing that you're doing, this things that we're trying to do, especially if you don't have any experience in the field that you are in. It's a lot of struggle. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of late nights, early mornings. It's a lot of denials, a lot of rejections, that happens, but that's part of the business. All those rejections, all those denials, all those hard times, help you to become who you need to become in order to build $1 million or $1 billion business. One of the things that, if you guys don't watch the Founders podcast, I genuinely would suggest that you guys watch the Founders podcast. And what it basically does, it talks about all of the biggest, one in a lifetime business entrepreneurs or business leaders like Steve Jobs, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, who created Amazon, and, Bill Gates, who created Microsoft. He does podcasts and he analyzes and researches how they built their businesses. And not even just business owners, people like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, who are greats within their own field. You know what I mean? One of the things that they all have in common, after watching those videos, studying and learning about them, one of the things that all great leaders, all great founders have in common, one is that they know how to tolerate pain physically and mentally. They know how to tolerate pain physically and mentally. The reason why that's so important is whenever you're building your brand or you're building your business, you're going to go through a lot of hard times. You could have, forget terrible weeks. You could have terrible years. You could have terrible years. Are you willing to stay and to continue building your business, building your brand? Year after year, when you're having these failures, are you willing to, take on that stress? That stress for multiple years. Are you willing to do that? Kobe Bryant's pain tolerance was tremendous. It was crazy. Michael Jordan is the same thing. Their stress and pain tolerance was, it was crazy because they knew in order to be where they want to be at, they couldn't afford to let the stress and the pain of growth prevent them or hold them back from where they wanted to go. So whenever you're building your brand, whenever you're building your business, whenever you're doing what you're trying to do to become great, and you're going through pain, you're going through hard times, you feel like giving up, that's good. You need pain, you need stress. And I try to tell myself that all the time because I feel a lot of that when I'm building my business and I get upset because I'm not getting clients, or I get upset when, I'm invoicing my employees and stuff like that are not showing up. Those things are stressful, but those things are good because you need to learn how to navigate those things. Because if you try to avoid stress, you try to avoid that pain, you're not going to grow. because those stresses, those problems, those pains, those are growing pains. You have to learn how to navigate those things to become better. So one thing they all know how to do is they know how to tolerate pain and stress on a both physical and mental level. Number two is those guys just never give up, bro. If you look at those guys like Kobe, Jordan, Larry Bird, you look at great founders like, Steve Jobs and all those guys who founded great businesses, they just never gave up, bro. And as cliche as it sounds, and you guys hear this all the time, whether it was from teachers, your mom and dad, mentors, what's the biggest thing? Someone always says, never give up. And it sounds so cliche, like it sounds cliche. You know what I mean? When someone says, never give up, bro, never give up, bro. But that's really what it is. Like, you just never give up. Like, you just have to keep going, keep pursuing, keep pushing, for years upon years. You have to just keep going. Imagine if Steve Jobs just gave up on Apple. What if he just ran into a problem and just gave up? Would we have these Apple devices that we all rely on? Would we ever know what Apple is if he just gave up on it and said, screw this? I've been trying to build Apple for the past 5 years and it's not working. Would we ever have these Apple devices? Same with computers. The guys that built computers and built Microsoft and all these things, if they just stopped and gave up and just said, screw this, bro, I don't want to do this no more, would we have the technology that we have today? So you have to think about that. Never give up on what you're doing, because the moment that you give up, the next day or the next year could have been that year when your business or your personal brand or whatever you're doing is gonna blow and you're gonna become the best that you need to be, but you gave up that year before. And that's kind of like my thought process when I think about giving up and just quitting and just like going back to my old ways. I'm just like, what if next year was a year that my business grows or becomes where I would need it to be? Could you live with that? When you're 80, 90 years old and, you had an opportunity to build a business, to build a brand where you knew it was going to be great, but you gave up because of what? Because you couldn't handle the little stress, the little problems. All those things are in the past. One of the things that I like to remember and understand is that everything continuously is becoming the past. So whatever pain and stress that you're in right now, you're going to get over and it's going to help you to become better. So that's really my mission in this video, man. Like, this year has been a grind and I'm happy with all the experiences that I'm going through. And things are just going to keep getting harder. Things are just going to keep getting harder. And my whole goal is like, can I do this for the next 5 years? And after I meet that 5 years, can I do this for the next 10 years? And after it gets 10 years, can I do this for the next 20 years? Then 30, 40. How long can you do this thing? And so if you guys have goals out there and you're genuinely trying to be something, you're genuinely trying to get somewhere in life and you feel like, things are just going slow or you're not getting to the point where you want to be at, just keep working, man. Just keep working, keep trying. Come back to this video, rewatch this video, go watch other videos on YouTube. I watch a lot of Alex Hormozy. I watch a lot of like content creators to help me keep motivated. And I watch the Founders Podcast. If you guys don't watch that podcast, go watch it. It just talks about, one of the biggest leaders or business leaders in the world, and it helps me to stay motivated because motivation is just a feeling. It comes and it goes, but discipline and consistency has to be forever. Like, you know what I mean? You have to have that to build something. So hope you guys enjoyed the video, man. As always, I appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.